Hey guys, and welcome back to Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. It is time for Week 16. It's Wednesday, which means we've got start sits for you guys, preview the Saturday episodes, get you guys all set and ready to go to try to win yourselves a Beer Fueled championship. I'm at Nick Sparts. We got Christopher Hopper down at a remote studio in St. Louis.
What's up, guys? Hot BFF with two P's. Trying to find where our live stream is.
Well, I do have it up. I can check questions if needed as well.
Yeah, it didn't pop through on my notifications. So.
All right. Well, we're Beer Fueled Fantasy Football, the show where we review a beer, cover all the fantasy football news and information, and get you guys all set for each of your matchups. This is our last week of the regular season. We do not do Week 17 because Week 17 is evil. So we got a couple games to talk to you guys about. We got a bunch of breaking news that's happened. A lot of injuries happened this past weekend to go over. Just make sure you guys are all set and ready to go. If you guys want to follow the show on social media, it is Beer Fueled FF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped, where we do beer reviews, can art, drop news, keep you guys posted on what we're doing on the show. Beer Fueled Fantasy Football is where you can jump on for YouTube. You go ahead and ask us questions during the episodes. We try to get those answered in between segments. Then mentioned at Nick Sparts and at Hot BFF for our individual handles. And then Dan Thury is MIA. If you want to yell at him, it is at Thury BFF with 2 Fs.
I got the stream pulled up now.
Fantastic. So go ahead and get those questions in. Hopper will let me know when we have one during the episode. But before we go ahead and get through all the news, recap of Mondays, and everything else we got to talk about in today's episode, let's tell you about a beer we're reviewing today. And second time we've had them on in about the last 2 months here. We've got Front Row by Logboat Brewing Company, based out of Columbia, Missouri. It's Logboat's second time on the show. And Front Row is an American wheat. Comes in at 5.5% ABV. It's inspired by the Midwest music scene. And I quote off the can, because beer always tastes better in the front row.
Beer tastes good anyway. But always at a concert, I agree with that.
I agree.
Actually, most concerts I go to, you're not going to hold on to a beer in the front row.
Yeah, it depends. If you can grab the rail hard enough, you might be able to.
Yeah.
I don't know how you got to the front row with the beer in the first place.
It's risky. Yeah, you can't leave the beer if you're going to be in the front row. Because you want your spot back.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and we do have a surprise here with a couple presents sent from a friend of ours who wanted to support the show, so we're going to open them on air as he requested. Dan is going to open his on Saturday, so he can get his on there. We're going to tell him not to watch this episode for any fantasy advice, just so we don't spoil this part for him.
Yeah, it's just a thing we didn't want to travel with him, basically.
Yeah, Hopper and I will both not be at our normal location on Saturday when we record, so didn't want to deal with that mess.
Indeed.
All right, let's get these open.
I feel like the duct tape was an aggressive choice.
He did have to mail yours.
That he did.
Oh, it looks like a coffee mug. Let's get it open.
I'm still working on the box. Don't ruin this for me. I'm not looking at the live stream either. It's paused. So.
Well, hopefully you guys can see it in the live stream.
Hey, it did wrap mine. So I could have taken it out of the box.
I will say I'm sad I didn't have mine on Sunday. It would have been perfect.
Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life.
Oh, is it the book?
No, it looks like pint glasses. Drinking draft. I'm the commish. I gotta open this first. This looks freaking awesome. And like what I'm just gonna start drinking out of during the show. Because I've actually been pouring my beers. I feel like I'm being more sophisticated these days. Case in point. What was yours, Nick? Hold. Well, never mind. I'm not watching. You got a mug?
Yep, I got a mug. It says Fantasy Jocks on one side. On the other side, it says I'm only up this early to check my waiver claims.
Nice.
As I said, it would have been perfect for Sunday. I could have put my iced coffee in it.
Eat drink fantasy.
That's what yours says?
That's one of them. There's 4. Drink and draft, which always the only way to draft, in my opinion. I'm the commish, which I am, and I'm also in the championship. Tyree Kill jersey on the line. Might get to keep my own jersey. It's a heel move. The right thing to do would be to give it out to a listener, but and drinking draft committee. Awesome. Andy, we super appreciate the glassware. It's a very nice gesture. We super appreciate you and being supportive of us. Really from the moment we decided to do this crazy little thing.
Yep. Shout out, Andy. Thank you very much for that. All right. With that, let's go ahead and pour some beer into our brand new pint glasses here, or mugs, and let's go ahead and proceed on to some news.
You know what? I'm going to take that early.
Starting off at the quarterback position, where Cam Newton, with his shoulder, will not play the final 2 weeks of the season. Taylor Heineke, famous for putting his leg through a window in his own house because he locked himself out while drunk, and then tearing a ligament in his leg during the process, will get the start for the last 2 weeks.
Oh, that's who Taylor Heineke is. I knew the name. I just couldn't think of why. Cool. I guess I don't know what that means for DJ Moore. We'll figure that out. Not a lot to go off of with Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, it probably hurts Thomas as well. But yeah, Cam was awful out there. He would
CMC should benefit, I would think.
Yeah, when Cam Newton's missing low, you know something's wrong. That's never his issue's always been missing high.
Yeah, he did not look like himself or like he had all season with that. So they made the right move to shut him down.
Yeah,
I think you literally, by the way, I actually did pour beer in my new pint glasses.
There you go. Raiders signed quarterback Nathan Peterman to their practice squad.
Yes. He is instantly the best quarterback on the Raiders. AJ McCarron cannot get out from Nathan Peterman's shadow.
Love it. Packers placed Aaron Jones with his knee injury on injured reserve. They can't make the playoffs. He's not going to be back the last couple of weeks, so might as well free up the roster spot.
Yeah, they should see what they actually have in Jamal Williams, give him one more chance to see if he's developed any from the beginning of the year. He actually looked all right in limited work, so I'm interested to see what he looks like if he's come along at all, or if that's just a lost cause, basically, at this point, because 2 years in the league should see some improvement.
Lions placed running back Kerryon Johnson on injured reserve, ending his season as well.
Long time coming.
Yeah, he just could not get healthy from the knee, which has kind of always been a concern with Kerryon. The talent was obvious this season when he was healthy, but man, did he get banged up a lot.
That's exactly how his college tape was, too, though, and that's what we warned people about pre-draft and pre-dynasty draft. He's going to be exceptionally talented when he's healthy. The issue is going to be him staying healthy because he was beat up with a lot of soft tissue stuff in college, too.
Dolphins place the old man zombie himself, Frank Gore, on injured reserve with a sprained foot. He is done as well.
See you next year.
See you at 36.
Yep.
Coach Dan Quinn finally conceded that Devonta Freeman will not return this season. It is going to be the Tevin Coleman show the rest of the way.
He was the last person holding on to hope that Devonta Freeman was going to return this season.
Seahawks signed running back Bo Scarborough to their active roster. I think it was off of Jacksonville's practice squad.
Ooh.
It landed in about the busiest spot possible, though, which is gross.
He did, unless Hyde misses more time, I guess.
No, Seahawks signed him. Off of Jacksonville's practice squad.
Sorry. I should listen. Yeah, no, that is pretty gross. Maybe a sign of the Mike Davis injury, though?
Penny, too.
And Penny. Right, so there's the potential some opportunity there.
Yep. Rams signed running back C.J. Anderson, and the coach said we may see him as early as Sunday.
Wouldn't be surprised, especially with Gurley's knee. We talked about it earlier, how we didn't think that they necessarily felt good without Malcolm Brown there. Now with Gurley banged up, they needed the insurance policy. He's a veteran guy. He should be all right.
Yeah, and you can tell
they're
they're.
fantasy purposes. Don't even think about that.
Yeah, this has to make every Gurley owner nervous, though, that he's not going to necessarily see a full complement if he goes Sunday, and that as soon as it looks like they've gotten the bag, they could easily shut him down.
And should honestly.
This goes with the Devontae Freeman news earlier, but the Falcons promoted running back Jeremy Langford off their practice squad.
And the Smith injury has not played in a regular season NFL game in 2 years.
Yep.
This was good that one time, though.
Yeah, he had that one season where he got all the hype, and then who did he get overdrafted the next year? Packers signed wide receiver Alan Lazard. This one will get Hopper going.
Yes. As much as I hate the Packers, it's a good landing spot. They've been struggling to find an outside number 2 guy. He's a big receiver that had better athleticism than the other big receivers in this year's draft. Think if they can develop him, he's another name to throw in there with some of this year's rookies. They also had that have flashed a bit. But he's a guy who's upside I'm not ready to give up on yet. So for Dynasty, that could be worth a grab, especially if he ends up not necessarily catching on, but staying on the roster through the offseason process.
Yeah, super deep leagues need only apply, but yeah, if you're in 16 team or 12 team with really deep rosters, I'd kick the tires on it.
It's a good landing spot.
Fantastic.
In all honesty, for a guy getting sniped off a practice squad this late in the season, it's a great landing spot.
Rams wave punt returner, kick returner Farrell Cooper. He was a Pro Bowler last year, and he was claimed by the Cardinals.
Okay.
Jets place wide receiver Rashard Matthews then injured reserve with a hamstring injury. He's done for the year.
Wait, Rashard Matthews is inactive?
Yeah, he caught a couple passes for the Jets last week.
Weird.
We got one player declaring as well. We got running back Mike Weber, running back Ohio State, 21 years old. Was never a 3-down workhorse back, so people are a little confused as to what his exact role will be in the NFL, but he's very athletic and he's pretty talented, so he's probably going to be a 3rd or 4th round pick.
If only there were other Ohio State running backs that have been super athletic and not really sure what their NFL role would be, and may have fought themselves into a wide receiver 2 role.
I don't think he's going to be a wide receiver convert like Samuel.
I don't think so either, but you get the sentiment.
All right, let's quick run through the guys who did not practice on Wednesday. Up first is the biggest name, Todd Gurley, knee, did not practice today.
They're going to rest him. I don't think there's any way he sits if he can go at all, just because of how close that number 1 seed is, and the fact that neither the Saints or the Rams especially can afford to lose out. With the Bears looking.
Now, the other thing they may do is I could see them making him active and then not using him unless the game's close.
I can see that also. They may not start him. They may keep him on the sideline until it's like, oh crap, we need him. Because what is it? The Rams lose 1 and the Bears went out and the Bears have the bye week?
Yeah. But they got the Cardinals this week. So their defense and pass rush getting Rosen's face alone may be able to win them this game. They may not need the offense to score any points.
That's the other argument for it. So early owners, yikes.
Yeah, I see a lot of people have him as their number 1 back this week, and I'm like, I want nothing to do with that. He's still an RB1 for me, but man, he is not my top 3. I'd way too worried that he could end up with just 0.
Right, me too.
Austin Eckler, neck, remained sidelined at Wednesday's practice, so he's lost the concussion tag, but the stinger in his neck is still keeping him sidelined.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon's expected to be back at full speed, so the secondary role's limited, but you may see Justin Jackson slide into that pin touch-ish role.
Yep, me the primary kind of change of pace pass catching guy.
Yep.
T.Y. Hilton ankle didn't practice on Wednesday. The quote I saw from him is he made his ankle angry after Sunday's game.
Sounds like something we would say.
Yeah, he's fighting through this, and he's played 2 straight weeks with the ankle, but he's really struggling.
And he's been fine, but yeah, he's dinged up. This is really not the first time we've seen this with T.Y. Hilton, and other veteran receivers this late in the season.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he has another week of 0 practices and goes on Sunday.
Same.
Tyler Boyd knee did not practice Wednesday. I think it's about a 0% chance he goes this week.
I think so also, and I don't know really who you dart throw at from the Bengals. If you're trying to get cute about that, it'll depend on Denzel Ward.
Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon.
Yeah, Joe Mixon all the way. If you're looking for receivers, they're going to have to throw to somebody. I don't think it's John Ross.
I mean, outside of maybe a 6-yard touchdown, that's not going to go to John Ross.
I'm Erickson or Cody Core are names to know, I guess.
Yeah, because Malone's also been banged up.
Yeah.
Randall Cobb concussion is not practicing Wednesday. With just the way he's been this season, I wouldn't be shocked if he misses again.
Neither. Unfortunately, he's been all right when he's played, but he hasn't played a whole lot.
Yeah, he's just constantly getting hurt, and I'm pretty sure the Packers will cut him this offseason, so it'll be interesting to see where he lands in 2019.
Another reason why the Lazard thing's interesting.
DJ Chark remains sidelined on Wednesday. I'm surprised he hasn't been IR'd at this point. He's been out for 4 weeks.
No, and he's hanging out with Jacksonville.
Dontrell Inman shoulder didn't practice on Wednesday. He is less likely to go than Hilton, I think.
He's also been beat up. The Colts are short on wide receivers.
Yep.
To say the least. And they have been all season. It's been Hilton and nobody.
This will help out Robbie Anderson a little bit. Quincy Enunwa ankle remains sidelined at Wednesday's practice, and I don't think he goes this week.
Robbie Anderson's been good the last couple weeks also. The plus matchup against Green Bay.
Eric Ebron quad didn't practice on Wednesday. I think he'll be fine by Friday.
Aren't they out of tight ends?
Basically, yes. It's him, and I think it's him.
Yeah, because Swoop just got picked up by the Saints. So.
Well, no. They picked him up, and then they waived him as for failing a physical. Now he's back on IR with the Colts.
Oh, good.
And then Jordan Reed, ankle, foot, toe. So just the whole below the knee area remains sidelined at Wednesday's practice.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
So it's sprinkle time.
It is Jeremy Sprinkle time, and I'm excited for Sprinkle time. It's against the Titans. I don't know how excited I can be, but I'm interested to see him play, and it's definitely a player I'm going to keep an eye on, especially for dynasty purposes on massive tight ends, with Jordan Reed being expendable and Brennan Davis being a corpse.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to watch all the games Sunday, or if I'm going to even be able to, but if I can catch that game, I would like to, because I want to see what Sprinkle does.
I'll tell you what I've done the last couple of weeks. Red Zone, and then whatever game. Red Zone on the big TV, and whatever game I wanted to watch on a laptop in front of me.
I'm not even sure where I'm going to be when the games are happening, so that'll be the other part.
Yeah, well, that's an issue for me too. I may be in Springfield. I don't really know, because that's
the Sunday before Christmas, so I will probably be in Springfield someplace.
Probably at Cousin Eddie's.
Might be at Eddie's.
All right, let's go ahead and recap what the hell happened Monday night.
What the hell happened?
All right, Hopper, you've got this game. The Saints win this one 12-9. Those were not 3 field goals for the Panthers. They had a pick 2 for 2 of their points. So pretty ugly game overall for fantasy scoring.
It was Drew Brees 23-35, so that part's not bad, but just 203 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. He looked off all night. Panthers defense also really did step it up, honestly, on this one. Alvin Kamara had a rough first half, but picked it up in the second half. 14-67 on the ground with a late touchdown. Also 7 or 9 through the air, but only for 36 yards. Ingram 63 yards and 11 through the air. So both running backs ended up being all right. If you started them, Ingram, flex value, Camaro was up there. As for the receivers, Michael Thomas is the only one even kind of worth mentioning. 9 targets, 7 receptions, 49 yards. Several of those called back on penalty.
Yeah, he should have closer to 80 or 90 yards, unfortunately.
Yeah, the Saints offense is sputtering a bit headed into a home matchup against Pittsburgh, so hopefully the Superdome is a cure for that.
Yeah, it doesn't help me much anymore, but hopefully.
Yeah, other than that, not really a whole lot mentioning for them. The defense did play incredibly well against the Panthers, but a lot of that was also Cam Newton being off.
Mm-hmm.
As for the Panthers, Cam Newton, as I mentioned, was off, completed his 16 passes on 29 attempts, only 131 yards and a pick, sacked 4 times, just 15 rush yards. and got shut down. He's been dealing with an arm injury. Overall, I think when we look back on Cam Newton's season, we're going to see it as a step towards what we wanted to see from Cam Newton for a long time. But
until the shoulder gave out.
Exactly. Christian McCaffrey, on the other hand, just proves week in, week out how dynamic he is. He had a 50-yard pass touchdown. Had 53 yards rushing and 67 yards receiving, and could have had more. Cam just didn't see him open the flat a couple times and opted to throw to cover people over the middle for whatever reason. Other than that, again, not really anybody worth mentioning. Curtis Samuel had 4 targets, only caught 1. DJ Moore, 3 targets, caught just 2, neither one over 20 yards. Chris Manhertz was the leading receiver, and that is the 50-yard pass that came from Christian McCaffrey. Defense also good. Second straight week, they've looked better since Rivera took over play calling.
Yep, defense does seem to be trending in the right direction. I'm still going to like starting some Falcons against them this week just because it should be a solid matchup for them, and the Falcons offense seems to be in a slightly better place than New Orleans has been lately.
Yep.
All right. A couple quick questions here. We got Pavan up first. Do I still play Jalen Samuels in the tight end position this week, or do I replace him with Lacoste, Uzama, or Herndon?
It depends on Connor, honestly.
And it sounds like he probably will not go.
Yeah, Connor does not go, then yes, you absolutely keep Jalen Samuels in the tight end position. If Connor does play, or this turns to where Connor is playing, do not play Jalen Samuels. The Steelers do not use 2 running backs, ever.
Yep. And of the 3 of those, Uzama, I guess?
It's got to be Uzama with nobody else there to catch passes. That's where I'm taking the throw. It's not a fantastic matchup, but it's the Brandon LaFell rule, basically. He's the last person with any name cachet at all that's active as a pass catcher.
Yeah, I think Lacoste has the best matchup, but man, I do not trust him.
No, I don't either. It's been inconsistent at best. And Herndon's matchup isn't necessarily terrible either. He's probably been the most consistent of the 3. But Uzama's got the biggest upside.
The issue with the Packers is people just either run or throw to receivers against him and don't bother throwing to the tight end.
Exactly.
All right, and then Jack wants to know, hi guys, it's full point PPR, and I need to pick one out of these guys, Robbie Anderson, Alshon Jeffrey, Jarvis Landry, or Mike Williams this week.
So for me, that's actually probably pretty hands down Alshon Jeffrey. His biggest games this year have come with Nick Foles throwing the football. And
it's an awesome matchup.
It's an awesome matchup.
Yep, I think it's Jeffrey. The Landry and Anderson are also nice picks. Williams is in the hell no category, and I'll get to him later.
Yeah, that's a tough matchup for Williams in Baltimore. So it's pretty much Jeffrey for me.
Yeah, and it does look like Allen is going to be back, which would drastically reduce his targets.
Yep. I would honestly, I like Anderson this week, though, too.
I do,
Not
too.
as much as I like Jeffrey, but I do like Anderson this week.
Bit of breaking news. Ted Ginn has been designated to return from injured reserve. So he might be a pickup in your championship week because he's been pretty awesome before he went down with an injury this year.
If he plays.
Yep. All right. And with that, let's go ahead and get into our starts and sits of week 16.
Start 'em, sit 'em.
All right, and we're going to go ahead and start off with this quarterback position. Do you want to do Dan stuff then?
Yeah, I'll do Dan stuff if you want to take the middle part.
Sure.
All right, we'll go Dan first, me last. So Dan's start of the week is Dak Prescott. He's just a better player at home. 71% completion percentage, 13 touchdowns at home compared to just 4 on the road. 262 yards per game. I'm not sure if that applies to the road or at home. I'm going to assume at home because it's Dak Prescott. Well, being a far better defensive team over the past 5 games or so, they've allowed just 19 touchdowns to 0 interceptions on the road this season, and quarterbacks are averaging over 9 yards per attempt, completing nearly 75% of passes. I'm assuming he's talking about the defense there?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So I agree that Tampa Bay has been better of late, but Dallas at home has been very, very good as well. And in your championship week, where it could end up a lot like week 16, where there's just a bunch of, or like week 15, where there's just a bunch of matchups, Dak Prescott has some serious upside in the plus matchup.
Yep, like him a lot as a pick this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and go with a guy who matches up well with what we just told to start Jeffrey there for Jack, and we'll go ahead and say Nick Foles is also a pretty decent matchup option this week. Average game for quarterbacks against the Texans in the last 4 has been 338 yards, 1.75 touchdowns, and 1 interception. It's good for 21.5 fantasy points per game, 5 more than the average NFL average is allowed, and one of those was Mariota. So it's not like these are killer quarterbacks who are coming in and throwing for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns against them. I think Foles is going to exploit his connection with Jeffrey, and this is a solid matchup. And with quarterback play trending downward, the Texans seem to be one of the few teams going in the opposite direction, just getting torched lately by opposing quarterbacks.
That's true. Nick Foles is somebody also that I looked at for my start of the week before I realized you had it written down. There's several guys in here that I would have gladly doubled up on, Nick Foles being one of them.
All right, and Hopper, you've got the third start of the week at quarterback.
My third start of the week is going to be Mitchell Trubisky. 5 of the last 6 quarterbacks to face the 49ers have gone for over 20 points. And Nick Mullins has been at least good enough to keep games close and keep throwing happening. And the Bears' offense has really been streaky enough to keep that happening as well. And the Bears do have a little bit of a beat-up secondary, even though the pass rush can probably get home. Nick Mullins gets rid of the ball quick. And without, I haven't seen a lot of updates on Eddie Jackson. I don't know if he's going to go, and they're still down Bryce Callahan. So it should be close. Trubisky's been very, very good against bad defenses as well. Multiple touchdowns in games against Green Bay, Detroit, the Jets, New England, Miami, Tampa Bay. He has not had a bad game against those bottom, 10 to 15 types of defenses this year.
Mm-hmm. All right. Jorge has a quick question before we jump onto the running backs. He wants to know, he lost Cam. Should he start Baker, Allen, or Cousins at quarterback in the championship?
Baker, Allen, or Cousins?
Baker's got Cincy, Allen has New England, and Cousins has Detroit.
Probably Baker.
Yeah, I would say Baker too.
I'm just most comfortable with Baker at this point.
My answer for start of the week was going to be Baker, and then I felt like it was too low-hanging fruit.
Right. He's got a bad Cincinnati team. He's been at least relatively consistent. I don't think that there's a world where Baker busts. Josh Allen against New England, that could go one of 2 ways, and I'm not willing to risk that in the championship unless you're a home run type of hitter. And
yeah, if you think you're going to lose and lose bad, I might try to start Allen. But if you're looking for any sort of safety, I want Baker.
Yep, I do as well. And then my thoughts on Cousins are, well, I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on Cousins against the Vikings. I think that they can just run on them, and he doesn't have to run on the Lions, and he doesn't have to throw a whole lot.
All right, and then Jimmy also has a couple questions too.
Sure.
Dad knocked me out, but now his dad is looking for some help. He's in the championship, $1,300 on the line.
No pressure.
Wants to know, do I start Dak Prescott or Tom Brady at quarterback this week? That's Dak for me pretty easily.
Dak for sure. Bills have been actually pretty good against opposing quarterbacks.
I think they've been the best lately.
Yeah, they're top 3, actually. I looked at it earlier. The Jets are actually up there with them.
And then and Jordan Howard or Elijah McGuire at running back this week?
McGuire's got the Packers, which is very plus. The Bears have the Niners,
which is more.
McGuire's got more insulated carries.
Yeah, there's no Cohen to take his work.
Yeah, I'm leaning McGuire just because his volume is insulated. Howard's is not. I really think that those defensive matchups are pretty close.
Yeah, and with it being full PPR, I think McGuire likely sees more pass catching work too.
He definitely does, and I think both have an equal chance of falling into the end zone. So there's just more upside to McGuire, even though both have a decent floor.
All right, so Prescott and McGuire is our answer. Hopefully that works out for you, and hopefully your dad can pull in some money and give you a cut for the advice.
Yeah, nice Christmas gift.
All right, let's move on to our running backs, where Dan is going back to the well again with Chris Carson.
Dan is going back to the well with Chris Carson. You know what? I don't hate it. I thought about going this also. Over his past 5 games, Carson's averaging 83 rush yards a game, 4.62 per carry, 4 touchdowns. Passing work is up and down, but he caught all 6 of his targets this past week against the 49ers. Seattle wants to run the ball. They want to establish the run. And they look really good doing this, unlike last year. They turned that offensive line around a lot. at least as far as the run game goes. So Carson has been fantastic. Chiefs are giving up 127 rushing yards a game at 5 yards per carry. They've given up at least one rushing touchdown in every game for the past 7 games, and the rest of that Seattle backfield is beat up. So Carson should have this work mostly to himself, which is a lock for 20-plus carries against a team that is not good at stopping the run.
All right. And then mine is the aforementioned Elijah McGuire. Back-to-back games with 70-plus total yards and a touchdown as the main guy in New York. Now he gets a Packers defense that's missing both starting defensive tackles. Both have been put on IR and are done for the year. They've allowed 131 total running back yards per game and 4 touchdowns over their last 4. I think those are supposed to be the last 3. Solid running back 2 option this week. He's getting the majority of the work. Trenton Cannon is only getting just a sprinkle of it. It's pretty much just McGuire left standing in this matchup. He's a volume-insulated running back 2 option.
I agree.
All right, and then
answered that question the way that I did.
And then Hopper. This has to hurt a little bit.
It does hurt, but I'm going back to the well. Derrick Henry is the type of player that is going to carry you through to a championship, and this week is no different. We know what he's done the last 2 weeks. He's been insanely good. Deion Lewis has fallen off a cliff, which has led to Henry seeing an uptick in carries, and he's going against a Washington team who's been bad against between the tackles runners all season. So it's not going to stop this week. He's going to be good for at least 1 touchdown, probably multiple. The efficiency should be up where it's been the last 2 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another 20-plus point game out of Derrick Henry.
All right, let's go ahead and jump over to wide receiver, where Dan keeps it going with a second jet in our start of the week, and probably the first time that's happened all year.
And another one that I like, Robbie Anderson. He's averaging 8.3 targets, 73.3 receiving yards, and has 2 touchdowns over his past 3 games as he's building up for Sam Darnold. He's clearly the number 1 wide receiver again. 29% target share last week, 29% in week 14. So, again, Dan says what I just said. Darnold's clearly developing hungry eyes for Anderson. I ad-lib sometimes. I don't read straight from his notes. That's what And Green Bay has given up 161.7 yards per game to wide receivers over their last 4 games, including 5 touchdowns on 81 targets, or just over 20 points per game. Robbie Anderson's a locked and loaded wide receiver 2 this week. And really, that's why I said I like him also. Still like Jeffrey Moore, but Robbie Anderson, you have to start him. It's a really good choice.
All right, mine is going to be Calvin Ridley. Because is there any combo better than targeting slot wide receivers against Carolina? The team has to have a good slot receiver to do this. Looking at you, Saints, you only have Michael Thomas. Right. But Ridley already exploited this matchup back in week 2 to the tune of 64 yards and a touchdown on 4 receptions. I think he'll still be able to take advantage of the defense that's allowed 6 wide receiver touchdowns just out of the slot this season. Captain Marlin has been bad this season, so I think this team is trending in the right direction. We've seen better defense since Rivera came in, but I think Matt Ryan's too good, and they're going to attack Captain Munnerlyn enough that this should be a great matchup for Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley was another one of those guys that I wanted to put in his mind, and then I realized you had him, as well as your tight end start of the week.
I tried to go super deep with my tight end.
I know, it jumped out to me too.
All right, and then Hopper.
Spend time talking about this stuff.
All right, and then you and I both ended up grabbing a Broncos wide receiver, mine being in the flex, but you got yours in the wide receiver slot.
Yep, you went for volume and I went for productivity. Tim Patrick has 18 targets over the last 2 weeks. He's a Case Keenum type of wide receiver as well. Really, so is your receiver. But Tim Patrick has kind of filled in the absence of Emmanuel Sanders and a beat-up Cortland Sutton and no Demaryius Thomas. I expect this game will be relatively close, given just how the two teams match up, honestly. And in all wins and all but one single-digit loss, Oakland's allowed at least one wide receiver into double digits and multiple wide receivers into double digits 3 times. Now, when you consider the team, that doesn't sound like a lot, but Oakland's only won 4 games. And I think there's only been one loss of theirs that was less than double digits. So that's a pretty good ratio. That ends up being 3 of 5 for those keeping score at home.
Yep, he's been awesome, and actually been outplaying Sutton so far since he came into the starting role.
Yep. Last 2 weeks has been very, very good, especially in PPR formats.
All right, let's go ahead and jump over to the tight end position, where a guy that we can never just seem to call right. He blows up when we tell people to sit him, and when we tell people to start him, it doesn't go well. But Dan is going to get one more swing of this bat.
We just tell people to start him every week, and eventually we're right. It's Jared Cook. He disappointed us last week, and it was a plus matchup for him. And now I get to see another bad tight end defense in the Broncos. But I've only given up just one tight end touchdown over the past 4 games. We've given up 92 receiving yards to the tight end over that same stretch. So when it comes to tight ends, you approach one of 2 yards, touchdown upside, or yardage upside. 1 of 2 yards, 1 of 2 ways. He even makes word mistakes in his notes.
Yep.
Touchdown upside or yardage upside. Could be in line for an even higher tight end floor day, which makes him a worthy stream and a bounce back game. I agree with all that. Jared Cook is always bounce back worthy. It's a little boom bust sometimes. He's still really the only wide receiver option the Raiders have. He's not even a wide receiver.
All right. Then mine is going to be Dallas Goedert, because Ertz is too obvious, but I still want to attack this defense at tight end. So let's go with Goddard, who's had some target uptick in the last couple of weeks. And he gets a Houston Texans defense that's allowing 84 yards receiving and 0.66 touchdowns a game over their last 4. Guys who've crushed them for those numbers include names such as Jeff Hireman, Jonnu Smith, Jordan Reed, Chris Herndon, and Anthony Firkser. All broke 50 yards against them. I think Ertz and Goddard both have top 15 finishes this week.
I agree with that completely. They've used Goddard, and he's looked good being used. Like I said, I almost win at this.
All right, and then last tight end start of the week. You're just going back to old reliable.
Yep, I am going back to old reliable. It's the last chance I get to do it this year. OJ Howard will be healthy again next year, so I don't know when I'll get to do this again. Cameron Braid. Tight end spot's how you have to attack Dallas. It's the only spot they're not above average at defending. The Dallas has given up alternating weeks of good and bad performances against tight ends over the last 6. This is the good week. And this has historically been proven a tried and true formula when teams give up alternating weeks to a position. Looking at you, Doug Martin of 2016. So this is a Winston favorite target. It's the only place the Cowboys struggle. His red zone target always has touchdown upside. So I think that they're smart enough to know that if you're going to attack him, you got to go through Cameron Braid.
Yep. Well, they were supposed to do that last week, too, against the Ravens, and it didn't work out, but hopefully they learned their lesson.
Yeah. Hopefully.
All right. And let's get to our flex position, where Dan just grabbed your recommendation before you even got to it.
Yeah. Oh, wait. He puts... Am I on the wrong notes?
It should be Jeffrey.
Yeah. Hold on. It is. Sorry. I was looking at that wrong. It is Alshon Jeffrey. And this is a guy that I wanted to put in my wide receiver flex spot. But I guess all it took was a change to Nick Foles for Alshon to come out of his shell. Well, that and going back to the old offensive scheme they ran last season. It's really weird reading. As for Alshon and playing with Nick Foles, Alshon has averaged 5 catches and 6.5 targets, 94 yards, and has 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games dating back to the playoffs with Nick Foles. It goes back to the point I made earlier. Alshon Jeffrey with Nick Foles, Alshon Jeffrey is much better. Wentz, I think, relies on Ertz a little too much, which is why the offense kind of sputtered as well. Houston's given up the 2nd most receiving yards per game over the last 4 games to go along with 5 receiving touchdowns during that span. While Jeffrey is not going to may not see 160 yards again, he's got a decent chance finding himself in the end zone. His Eagles have also found their offense again averaging 26.5 points per game over the last 4 games. He's also got a chance at good yardage. Him and Foles obviously have better rapport than him and Wentz do. So I think Alshon Jeffrey creeps into wide receiver 1 range this week.
Yep. If you somehow made it this far with him, he's a great start this week.
Yep. Feels right on your bench. It's time.
All right. And then my guy is the other wide Bronco that we like, and it's not Cortland Sutton. It's Deshaun Hamilton. He gets an easy slot matchup. Raiders have allowed 5 slot wide receiver touchdowns in the last 7 games. Hamilton has 21 targets over the last 2. Not a ton of yards, only 93 on 14 receptions, but he scored once over that stretch. In full PPR, he's a high wide receiver 3 for me. I wouldn't recommend him in just standard. I want him in half or full point PPR, though. But in both formats, the volume should be there, and this is an exploitable matchup against the Raiders.
Indeed.
And then last start of the week, this should be just a blow-up spot for him.
Yep. And I called dibs on this on Monday. Marlon Mack. He bounced back last week in an absolutely huge way in what should have been a not good matchup. And outside of Washington, the Giants have not managed to hold it back under 10 points. They're like 4.4 yards carry over the last 3 weeks. This includes the Washington game, so that tells you how good the other two teams were. And 216 receiving yards in that span, which was a lot over a 3-week period. Marlon Mack should absolutely be a blow-up candidate this week, especially with the Colts defense being what it is, and New York potentially being without Odell Beckham. Could just run this one out, and that's all going to be Marlon Mack for you.
Yep, absolutely love it this week. Should be a great matchup.
Indeed.
All right, and then let's move on to our sits of the week, starting with Dan's. We already recommended someone start. Dan picked the perfect start sit for that one question because his sit is Tom Brady.
He is. And while Tom Brady will always be a great NFL quarterback, the days of him being a dominating fantasy quarterback have not been there this year. He said long gone. I don't know about that, but it's definitely not been the year for that. So just one quarterback, one finish over the last 7 games. And yes, he's averaging 300 yards per game in those same 7 games, but just 8 passing touchdowns during that span. Patriots have become a little bit more run-focused, especially with the additional Sonny Michel. Brady's suffering from that. The Bills are also very good against quarterbacks. Brady's last time out against the Bills threw for just over 300 yards. He didn't have a touchdown. Bills have also just allowed 160.5 pass yards per game over the last 4 games, 6 touchdowns, 4 picks. Brady's not going to kill you if you start him, but he's not going to give you a quarterback one day to help fly your team to a fantasy championship either. You're looking for upside this week. This is when you unleash the deep ball. Tom Brady isn't it. It's a check down to the running back.
All right, my first sit of the week is going to be Mike Williams, so I'm recommending you don't chase the repeat performance from him that you got last week in week 14. Week 15, I mean. 1, Keenan Allen looks likely to return. He is a target hog. Everyone else's volume drops significantly when Allen is in the lineup. 2, 9 targets he saw in week 15 matched the previous 2 games combined, and he has yet to break 60 yards in back-to-back weeks this season. He's basically just not getting consistent enough volume. And then lastly, average production giving up to opposing wide receivers over the last 5 games by the Ravens. This is all receivers. 19.8 targets, 9 receptions, so under a 50% catch rate, just 121 total yards and 1 touchdown over those 5 games, so 0.2 total allowed per game. This game has dud written all over it for Mike Williams. Even Keenan Allen, I'm going to be real nervous to start in this matchup, but Mike Williams is in the hell no category.
Indeed.
And then Hopper, you're recommending we avoid a guy who is playing on the fast track. I think a lot of people are going to be real tempted to start him this week.
They are, but I'm going to say caution. And that's not to say I don't see a scenario where this game is a shootout or he does go blow up. But Ben Roethlisberger, 8 touchdowns and 7 interceptions since the Week 10 5-touchdown game. So more interceptions than touchdown in 2 of his last 3 road games. The Saints are allowing to 16 points per game over the last 3 weeks, just over 17 points in the last 5. They have 6 interceptions in the last 5 weeks as well. So while this could be a shootout, Saints defense is playing better. Ben Roethlisberger has not been great down the stretch. Definitely hasn't given you a blow-up game down the stretch. So I think this could very well be a trap game, more or less. So I'm recommending steering away.
All right. Just 3 more sits left for you guys for 2018. Dan is just recommending just sit the entire Eagles backfield, and I agree with him on that.
We all kind of went this route. Regardless of who starts, you're not chasing Wendell Smallwood points or Josh Adams fielding a real role in this offense this week. Texans may be giving up 3 rushing touchdowns over their past 4 games. They've only given up 39.5 rushing yards per game over that same span. And 2.5 yards per carry. This game screens go vertical with Jeffrey, Eckler, and Hurts while avoiding going 3rd and long with what could be a very ineffective running game. And I do think this is an ineffective running game. I did look at Eagles running backs for my sits of the week. It's not a good matchup. It's not a good scenario with Adams banged up, and there's no floor to it.
All right. Keeping this train going, I'm going to go with the 49ers running backs because you got Breida, who's banged up with the re-aggravated ankle injury, but it's expected he's going to play, but who knows when that ends. And then you got Wilson sharing the load with him. So it could be lots of run for Breida, no run for Breida, Wilson kind of in the vice versa situation. Then they're facing the Bears, who are giving up 109 total yards per game to opposing backs, which is top 5 in the NFL. Just 3 touchdowns allowed over their last 5 games. The only way I would even consider starting anyone is if Breida's ruled out, Wilson's the last guy standing, and then he's a low running back 3 in PPR at best.
Yep.
All right.
Bears defense, very good against running backs. Don't know if we've said that enough this year.
All right, and then Hopper, our last sit of 2018.
In keeping with the trend I'm going with the Lions running backs, Zach Zinner's tempting after the last few weeks, but he doesn't really have big playability. And the Lions don't have the line Seattle does, the speed Village does, or really get to the red zone that much. And they're going up against the Vikings, who have a good run defense. Now, they may have given up points the last few weeks. That's why I made those points that I just made. It was Chris Carson running behind a much improved Seattle offensive line. Kalen Village on a big play. And really, Zinner is relying on punching it in. Otherwise, those days have just been mediocre. Kerryon Johnson manages 4.4 points earlier in the season when these teams met. So I'm not trying to find gold in the Lions' backfield because that's a fruitless project, especially against the Vikings. So just stay clear of that backfield as well.
All right. Anything else to add?
Nope.
All right. Let's go ahead and review this beer, and we'll get on to the game previews and get you guys on to the rest of your Wednesday.
Beer review.
All right. What did you think of Front Row by Logboat Brewing Company?
It's very, very drinkable. It's kind of got the light refreshness of like your normal domestic beer, but the flavor profile is a lot better. Slight hoppy bitterness to it. The wheat gives it a nice kind of citrusy, almost malty type of mild sweetness on the back end. It's a very, very good drink, and I can see why they said Front Row at a concert, because it sips like it's a domestic, but the flavor profile is definitely not.
Yep, and it's light enough too that like it could pass for a hot weather beer. So if it was an outdoor concert, that sort of thing, it would work just fine for all that as well. Not a super heavy wheat beer, but enough to let you know that it is a wheat beer. Very drinkable though. I'm glad Dan missed this episode. He picked a good one for this beer because we don't have to do the Dan doesn't like wheat beer disclaimer. But yeah, I really enjoy it. I think it's very drinkable, and I'm probably just not even going to give Dan the second one because he doesn't like him anyway.
No, just drink it.
Yeah. It's a really easy drinker. It's a watch football on a Sunday drinker, because you can definitely have more than one of these easily.
Yep, it's very close to a session level. It's barely over 5%, and goes down nice and easy. If this was on tap at a place I was watching football, I would love to have a couple of these, as opposed to either having to drink domestics, or a lot of places just rocking 7 or 8% IPAs, and it's like, give me something in the middle, which this would be perfect.
Yep, I agree with that. It's the perfect football beer.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to our game previews.
Weekly preview.
All right, how do you want to split these? Do you want to do one and I'll do the other?
For Dan, yeah, let's do that.
All right, I'll take the first one then. Redskins going into Nashville to play the Titans. Not going to spend a lot of time on this one because the Titans are favored by 10 at home, and it's a 37-point over-under. So starting with the Redskins, Josh Johnson is basically a poor man's Lamar Jackson. He does give a decent rushing floor. So in Superflex 2 quarterback leagues, use a fringe start option, not even in consideration. In 1 quarterback leagues, though, this is a bad matchup, and I expect the Redskins to just get pounded. For the running game, AP is just 77 yards away from another 1,000-yard season. I don't think he gets it here, though. I think he's going to have to wait till week 17. He only has 1 game with over 4 yards per carry since week 8. He was almost my sit of the week this week before deciding that was too obvious. You're praying he falls into the end zone. And then as for Chris Thompson, he shouldn't even be rostered at this point in redraft leagues.
I agree. Especially with the Chris Thompson statement, the Adrian Peterson statement against the Titans. Don't run either of them out there. They're very good against the run. That limits Josh Johnson. And yeah, the pass catchers are dead to me on the Redskins because nobody's doing it.
All right. And like a slighted mother, all pass catchers are dead to Dan on this team. Josh Johnson does not provide any passing upside to any of his receivers or tight ends.
Sorry, jumped the gun on that.
Defense is boom bust. Mariota and his passing game shouldn't kill him, but basically it would depend on them containing Derrick Henry, which I don't think they do. I would pass on starting the Redskins defense, which has been going in the wrong direction for about 6 weeks. As for the Titans, Mariota should not be rosterable at this point. He just isn't throwing the ball enough anymore. He had 88 passing yards in Week 15, so don't even consider him in this matchup. The only guy you're really looking to start is going to be Derrick Henry. 6 touchdowns and over 400 rushing yards in his past 2 games. Almost half of his rushing volume has been in the last 14 days. You got 33 carries the past week. Redskins are not going to make them change their game plan. They won't be able to score enough to stop the Titans from running the ball. So he should be a solid running back 2 at worst. I would even argue he's a back-end running back 1 this week, with the Redskins giving up 143.75 rushing yards per game over their past 4 games with 5 total rushing touchdowns. Dion Lewis is basically droppable. He had 15 touches in Week 14. 10 last week, and it's very likely to be another real heavy Derrick Henry game. So Dion Lewis just isn't a great option. You really don't need to roster him going into your championship.
No, he was good the first half of the year and then just disappeared.
He's faded. With the run game shifting, wide receivers really don't matter anymore. Davis just has 9 targets over his last 2 games. So even with this being a plus matchup, you just can't roll Davis out there. If there's something else you'd rather pick up and block your opponent and maybe tempt your opponent into starting Corey Davis, that may not be a bad option this week.
Yep.
Don't start any of the tight ends. It's just bad town. The defense is probably your number 1 play this week. Josh Johnson should not kill you in the passing game, and AP needs a heavy run volume to get going against a top-tier run defense. It's the best tight end defense in the NFL to lock down Jeremy Sprinkle. Want nothing to do with any of the Redskins, and the Titans defense is probably your number 1 play. Let's get on to a game which hopefully is a little more exciting, which is our evening game on Saturday. Ravens versus the Chargers. Chargers are favored by 5, and it's a 44.5 point over-under. So at least there should be an additional touchdown to be scored in this one.
Yeah, should be. Jackson's been a fine quarterback screaming option since taking over Joe Flacco. But the talks of Brewing James potentially spying and shadowing Jackson makes me think his rushing numbers are going to be lower than usual. He's not much of a passer at this point. With the negative matchup against the Chargers, I just don't see a lot to like from him this week, even with his rushing galore. That was kind of my sentiment as well, Dan. I don't necessarily love Lamar Jackson this week. I don't think he murders you, but I don't think he's going to give you the upside you're looking for, even the same floor he's given me the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he runs so much that he's going to get you 70 rushing yards. But the issue is going to be, can he get you anything more than that? And I don't think he can.
No, especially not if they stack with throwing James. The running backs, however, are a different story. Gus Edwards was able to get back into the good graces of fantasy owners last week. Now faces a running back defense that's given up the 6th most points to running backs over the last 4 weeks. This includes 5 rushing touchdowns. Dixon even gets some deep league flex value as a new pass catching back in this offense. Chargers have given up 6 receptions on 7 targets for 47 yards per game to running backs over the past 4 games. I mean, Gus Edwards has been good. I don't know how much I want to trust Kenneth Dixon this week, but Gus Edwards has been good. Nick, your thoughts?
Dixon is a desperation flex play. There is a definite narrative where he gets a touchdown, he gets enough volume to get you 70, 80 yards, and he's looked good, but the volume is still in Edwards' camp, so it's way riskier. If you're looking at a situation where you're like, I need a home run, I can see the argument to go Dixon.
Yep, I'm with you there. Wide receivers are not to be trusted here, and the tight ends are right up there also. Just the Chargers have a decent. I mean, it's an okay pass defense, but the Ravens don't have a decent passing quarterback. And the Chargers are too good an offense to trust the defense against. And so they're droppable.
Yep.
And I think we all share that sentiment.
Agreed.
As for the Chargers. What? Oh, gotcha. And Lamar Jackson is the first note here, and I'm like, wait, huh?
Got to keep reading.
Yes, Lamar Jackson has taken over, the Ravens have allowed the fewest offense plays to be run against them. I'm reading verbatim. making it even tougher to get ceiling days for your offensive players against them. With that said, quarterbacks have fared better at home. Fared better at home against them. 11 passing touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. Rivers is a high quarterback 2, low quarterback 1 for me this week.
I would skim and reinterpret, then try to read verbatim.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to because I was trying to read that verbatim, and that is not a sentence.
It sounded like you had a stroke.
I did have a stroke, but that's because that's how it's typed. Just for you guys listening, I am not having a stroke. That is legit how that is typed up. So let me try to sum that up for you. The Ravens are not allowing a ton of offensive plays to be ran against them. So not a lot of offensive plays means not a lot of volume for the quarterback, but quarterbacks have been better at home with the Ravens defense on the road. 11 passing touchdowns, just 3 interceptions when the Ravens defense is on the road. Puts Rivers back in that low end quarterback 1, high quarterback 2. Basically a floor day. Not a lot of plays, but not very efficient either.
Mm-hmm.
As for the Chargers, we all think Melvin Gordon plays this week. If he does, you have to start him. He should be full speed. It's a tough matchup, but you're not healthy Melvin Gordon. You're not going to sit against anybody. If he, I lost my spot. Ravens allowed 99 total yards per game over their past 4 games, so you got to expect a floor day for Gordon production wise, especially since he's coming off of injury. But he's a good lock for a rushing touchdown or a receiving touchdown. More of a low running back 1 this week. Given the other excellent running back matchups. Jackson and Eckler are on the bench. It's a terrible matchup, even with smaller pass-catching guys. The limited number of carries is going to massively limit their upside. So Melvin Gordon, temper expectations, basically.
Mm-hmm.
As for the wide receivers, Keenan Allen is a tough matchup, and he's banged up. Slated to face Brandon Carr, whose player profiler is number 14 rated corner. Still, if he can go, you play him. Too much upside. Plus, Carr struggles against shifty slot speedy receivers like Landry, Tyreek Hill. So if Keenan Allen goes, you're not playing Mike Williams or Tyrell Williams. Target volume goes away, and they become way too touchdown dependent. Keenan Allen cannot go. Mike Williams gets bumped to the wide receiver 3 this matchup. It's still a really difficult one, but the volume should make him flex worthy. Tyrell would still be on the bench. So you saw that Mike Williams is the one with that Keenan Allen playing. It's a volume-based play, basically.
Yep.
You're never going to play a tight end for the Chargers. Defense, special teams is boom bust. Jackson's prone to taking sacks and turnovers. So he hasn't thrown an interception in 3 games. He actually passed to throw interceptions and 5 fumbles in that span, which not good if you're a running quarterback.
Yeah, he's trying to catch up to Cousins for the most fumbles this year and trying to do it in half the time.
Half the time.
All right. Well, that's all we got for today's episode. Thank you so
much. We've been ignoring the chat.
Oh.
Colton, how are your championships going? I'm out, but I've been sniping plays that people get in the ship we're starting got injured. Thoughts, sniping players.
I mean, if you have something to play for still, I'm all for it. If there's a fifth place bracket, a third place bracket, or you're a consolation bracket, keep playing. It's up to you. You're having fun with the league. Only leagues I think that's not okay is leagues where they're
you're on bye.
Yeah, if effectively you're on bye and you have nothing left to play for, in which case you're no longer managing a team.
Yeah, me personally, I still will try to set my best lineup and wait until after waivers run to go grab guys, because I don't want to screw anybody over. I'm out. It's really on them at that point. But I'm still going to try to field the best lineup I possibly can.
I mean, but
unless I have a reason.
Yeah, but there's still leagues that have like payouts for third place or payouts for winning the consolation bracket. Maybe there's a punishment if you lose the consolation bracket. So there's reasons to go out and still grab guys. If you're in those situations, yeah, go out and snipe players away, spend that fab, make the championship players sweat.
Yeah. Jack wants to know, what are your thoughts on Gurley worth picking up Kelly? I would think no. Not with the signing of C.J. Anderson. I don't trust it. Unless they're trying to block the Gurley owner, might be trying to get cute, but even then, let him do it.
I picked up Kelly in a league where I'm trying to block the Gurley owner because he really has nothing else behind Gurley. So if we get any news on it, I just want to limit his ability to plug and play. But that is a relatively deep bench league, so normally I wouldn't be trying to make that move.
Yeah, if you're picking up Kelly, it's because you're worried that Gurley may not play a whole lot, and you're trying to block the Gurley owner. You're not picking him up to start him.
And on top of it, if Gurley doesn't go, I don't think there's any chance in hell I'm playing Kelly.
Yeah. And Mikkel. Hi. So I did win, and we'll go to the final despite starting Corey Davis and break, but played versus Elliott and Barkley. Too bad for the other dude.
Oh, so that's just an update. Yeah. Barkley laid his first egg, and he did it in the semifinals. So
and Elliott was fine yardage-wise, but didn't really blow up against the Colts. So.
And he had a fumble. So
Corey Davis, he's dead to me this year. He's flashed some. That's good, but
they're just turning into a. They've brought the exotic Smash Mouth back for some reason. I didn't realize. I haven't why put that together before. But the last 2 weeks, they're just back to like Derrick Henry just gets all the runs.
they're the freaking Cowboys.
Yeah,
except
with a better offensive line this
last
year.
year's Cowboys.
All right. I think that's all we got for questions. Thank you so much for everyone who brings those in. We appreciate that in every episode. We got one more live stream episode for you guys here. It'll be on Saturday. It's going to be about 10 o'clock in the morning Central Time for a live streamed episode. And then it'll be 10:30 in the morning. Hopper and I will be here to answer all your questions before kickoff on Sunday. So make sure to check in for that. We got 14 game previews on Friday, so keep the lightning round style questions going. Make it between 2 players if at all possible. If you have to do 3, fine. I don't want any questions though where it's like, hey, here's my entire lineup, set it for me. Those are tough to interpret through and read through, and we're trying to keep on a schedule.
Yeah. So if we get any of those, we may ask you to break it down. Not because we don't want to answer. We want to answer every question we get, but we got to try to keep it rolling with that going on. So we may ask you to try to break it down into some tougher decisions that you have. We won't turn you away. Just break it down for us if you can.
Yep. Just try to keep it so we can answer the question and then get back to whatever it is we're talking about, so the episode doesn't take close to 2 hours on Saturday morning when we're all going to be desperately trying to get to some coffee ASAP once we're done.
Some coffee and really family, because we're all going to be, well, me and you anyway, Nick, will be places with things to do and people to see.
Well, and Dan's going to work. So.
And Dan's got to work. So.
All right. So make sure to check in for that. You can follow the show at Beerfield FF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped. Get all the information there. Beerfield Fantasy Football is where you can find us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe and bell button if you want to jump on and ask your questions. Let you know when we go live Saturday and Sunday morning. Individually, we got Hopper down in St. Louis.
At Hoppy FF with 2 Ps. Thank you all for tuning in. We hope to see you all Saturday and Sunday morning as we wrap the fantasy football season up.
Yep.
It's been a pleasure.
Let's get you guys some championships. I am Nick Sparts. Dan Thury is working. He is at Thury BFF. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time on Beerfield Fantasy Football.
See ya.